Welcome to Boundless B, the Hemophilia B podcast. The podcast standing with you from a family like yours, presented by the Coalition for Hemophilia B and in partnership with Balancing Life's Issues. This year marks the 35th anniversary of the Coalition for Hemophilia B, a milestone that not only celebrates decades of advocacy, education, and support, but honors the people who have built that community from the ground up. And I witnessed that community firsthand. From the moment I arrived at the Renaissance Resort in Orlando for the symposium, it was the little things that left the biggest impression. A child running to hug a familiar face, parents chatting like old friends around a breakfast table, and laughter echoing through the hallways. Everyone was picking up right where they left off. My goal was to capture those moments and the conversations behind them. This episode brings together voices from all corners of the community, new families, seasoned parents, teens finding their place, and the leaders and legacy builders who have guided the way. At the heart of every story, though, the same foundation: education, connection, and the belief that we are all stronger together. So, join me today as we explore the extraordinary impact of 35 years, the annual symposium, and how early connection can change everything. For many families, the journey with Hemophilia B begins with confusion, fear, and a desperate need for answers. But through the Coalition for Hemophilia B, they find not just education, they find one another. Just like I found Erica and her family in line for a coffee.
This is his sister.
Zaylee.
Hi, Zaylee, and you are?
Say Liam.
And I guess tell us about your connection to the Hemophilia B community.
Yep, so I have Hemophilia B, I have mild, and Liam has Hemophilia severe.
And for those of us who are listening, Liam is smashing potato chips in a Mickey Mouse shirt. And how about Zay?
I don't have anything. I still have to get tested.
Okay. What's it like being a sibling of someone who has hemophilia?
It's kind of crazy.
It's kind of crazy in what way?
You worry about your brother a lot?
Yeah. When he's getting his infusions, I make him not cry and scream.
That's wonderful older sister behavior. And how about you as a caretaker of someone? Well, you have it yourself. What's that like?
Well, I didn't know about it until I was 31 years old. So when he was born, I found out I had it after I got tested.
This story is so familiar to so many families. Diagnosis coming after the birth of a child and coming to the realization that you or your child have a rare bleeding disorder. And a sibling who has so many questions and only just wants to help. So for Erica and her family, it was about finding the community that could help them navigate this new version of life.
We've been here every year of his life. Meet wonderful people every year. Get connected with a lot of families. Look forward to meeting them every year back here. Learn a lot. New medicines coming out, current medicines, things to do for infusions, the future of hemophilia, and so much more.
Then there are patients like Nathan, who have been diagnosed and part of this community for over 20 years. And for him, it's all about support.
Yeah, I mean, there's a lot of support within the community. We really help each other out, especially as new families.
But when Nathan met his now wife Angelina, and they decided to bring Amelia and Eleanor into their lives, Angelina was nervous, as she had no idea what Hemophilia B was and how that would affect their family planning. And it was the connections through the coalition that gave the two of them the guidance they needed to move forward with confidence.
Having our girls, they are carriers, but it's been nice, to kind of get different point of views and everything like that coming from, I didn't even know what this was before I'm marrying him or, being with him. So it's just been very informative.
And as these moments create lifelong memories for families, it all goes beyond your stereotypical vacation experience. It's a reminder that the days of kids running around the hallways in pads are long gone, because families have committed to education, which has led to advocacy, which has led to breakthroughs in research, science, and medicine. And as treatments for Hemophilia B continue to evolve, education becomes a critical tool in transforming fear into empowerment. From new medications to gene therapy, informed families are better equipped to advocate for themselves and each other. As treatments for Hemophilia B continue to evolve, education remains one of our community's most powerful tools. But it's important to remember no two journeys are the same. And for those who share the common thread of living with Hemophilia B, they're each at a different stage. Some are newly diagnosed, others are learning to parent through uncertainty, And then there are teens like Landon growing into themselves, learning how to manage their condition with confidence. Breakout sessions at the symposium gave families across all stages a chance to explore the latest treatment advances, ask questions, and discover what might be possible for their unique paths. And for Landon, that hope comes with a growing sense of self-assurance.
I'm Landon. I'm from northwestern Pennsylvania. This is probably my 10th.
10th?
Yes, I've been here quite a bit.
Very cool. And when it comes to breakthroughs in science and medicine, success stories like Landon's, who is 15, are showcased because it's afforded him the opportunity to just lead a normal life. And it's truly remarkable how Landon's attitude about living with hemophilia B is now so matter of fact.
I mean, it really doesn't affect me much. Get my infusion once every 2 weeks, and then I'm set.
Landon's life is completely different due to advances in medicine and his ability to take care of himself. All things attributed to the coalition.
It's because my whole life I've been surrounded by the community.
For teens and young adults like Landon, there are plenty of opportunities at the symposium to connect with those of a similar age group. But Landon's entry to the community was outside of the symposium and was actually through his music.
The Beats music program, I make sure I'm there.
Oh, you're a musician?
Oh, yeah.
Me too.
My guitar is right over there.
Dude, awesome.
And I'm there every year. And I'll get people's Snapchat or their phone number. I'll make sure that I'm in contact with them.
And then there are the parents like Jasmine who have come to listen to Landon's story in hopes that her own children will meet and learn from others to find their own version of resilience. Not all teens and young adults are so eager and comfortable as Landon to take this on.
Getting to know more people and getting to educate myself.
Yeah, because I noticed you were asking questions about your 13-year-old and how they manage it, maybe they hide it, or
they don't really like to kind of talk about it when they're hurt. So I think it would be nice for them to kind of meet other kids and kind of get that experience and maybe learn from them what they do. I didn't have this when I was younger. I found out when I was 9, but I didn't know there was a whole community out here. So I'm still kind of learning, and it's been really nice.
And as the coalition brings the stories of its members together to create connections around science and medicine, it's also about myth busting. We live in a world where doing your own research can lead you down some dangerous roads, and that's why the coalition makes it a point to bring in specialists who have turned having hemophilia into their life's work to speak to the most groundbreaking treatments available, like gene therapy.
CJ Hansen, I am the program manager for Ohio State's Hemostasis Thrombosis Center. Was diagnosed at 7, was taken out of a bunch of sports that I wanted to play. I actually pushed away from the hemophilia community and pretended that I didn't have it. So I did all the things that we weren't supposed to. Sure. I played tackle football on backyard football. I played club rugby in college.
Did you tell your mom that you were doing this? But this all caught up with CJ when he had to have shoulder replacement surgery. And that's when he grew close with his medical team, who encouraged him to, instead of trying to beat them, join them.
And now I just get to take care of people that have my experiences and they bring their own, and we get to talk through and figure out how to make their life better. We didn't have a lot of the therapies that we have now, which was a lot of the reason why people got pulled out of stuff when I was young.
But CJ isn't here to just speak to his own experience of rebelling against treatment as a kid. He's here to provide testimony to the success he has seen with many of the new and exciting therapies that are becoming readily available.
We've been waiting for this forever. We've made steps. It's taken a lot longer than was hoped for. But there's new therapies coming out all the time, which lead us to continued hope of there will be a cure at some point.
My name is Dominic. Right now I'm a junior in college. I'm studying film and television. I was starting to get irresponsible with doing my medicine. It just came at a perfect time. My quality of life has been great. I haven't needed prophy. I haven't had any bleeds. And I really just live with less on my shoulders. If you would have told me last year that I would be getting brought out to Florida to speak to a bunch of hemophilia B patients and share my story, I would have never believed you.
And it's stories like Dominic's that remind us that we're all human, and we just want to feel the safety and strength of a community when you know that you've been pushing the boundaries of what your body can handle. Or in the case of Michael, a life devoted to activity and sport that new therapies are allowing him to have. It even led to him being written about in Men's Health magazine.
Because I was on demand at first, then I switched to prophy treatment, and then even with that, I was still having breakthrough bleeds. So, I don't like needles, so I'm like, if there's anything that could just take this away, I'm ready. So being in Men's Health, it was really, it was shocking, leading up to it. I was like, if I could make Men's Health with just, advocating for my community on top of having quote unquote muscles, that would be awesome, because that right there could show you that, okay, here's something else you can do, whether it's, okay, you're doing sports, but you were afraid of weightlifting because, the injury. Well, here's someone who has a bleeding disorder who trains with weights. You know who you are as a person. hemophilia isn't who you are, it's a part of who you are. You have to get uncomfortable, make yourself uncomfortable. Be a part of a family, know you're not, by yourself, and sky's the limit, man. I think the quote is, if you want to go far, go by yourself. If you want to go further, go together.
When it's your first year at the symposium, everything can feel new. New faces, new schedules, new emotions. But in that newness, there's potential for something truly powerful, transformation. For Josh and Megan, attending the Coalition's annual event for the first time wasn't just a chance to learn. It was a chance to feel less alone. From Denver, Colorado, they came with open hearts and open minds, hoping to find connection. What they found was a community that welcomed them, and their son, Ruben, with open arms.
Our youngest son, Ruben, he's 4 years old. He has severe hemophilia B. And our other two are unaffected.
So it's great to meet new families. When I see someone with young kids that are similar in age to our kids, it's been great to meet people like that.
No family history and nowhere to turn. Something all too familiar for families with a new diagnosis before they were connected to the Coalition.
It was surprising.
I didn't even know what it was, really. I had to Google it. It was very different from anything we'd ever been used to.
What led you to connect with community in Colorado at that point?
We brought him in because he had bruises, and they ended up doing a blood test, and his veins burst when they did that. And so then he had to bleed, and then we were in the hospital. And
the journey to a hemophilia B diagnosis is often marked by trauma. Unexpected bleeds, hospital visits, unanswered questions. These are moments filled with fear and uncertainty, and they shape families in lasting ways. Fortunately, many are eventually pointed to a hemophilia treatment center, often referred to as an HTC. These specialized centers are staffed by teams who understand hemophilia inside and out. Hematologists, nurses, social workers, physical therapists, and more. That early connection is critical because the truth is, many general practitioners and emergency physicians receive minimal training on how to care for someone with a bleeding disorder. Getting to an HTC as early as possible can mean the difference between crisis and control, and it lays the foundation for expert care, informed decision-making, and where your community can start to grow.
Our people there in Colorado, those were some of the first people we met in Colorado, and they were just the people that we could talk to and rely on. So it was really good.
As parents, and your kids aren't even here, so you can speak very open. Where are they, brother? Are they at the youth camps?
The child care, yeah.
Cool. What kind of emotions are you guys experiencing just being here and around these families?
It's actually kind of bringing me back to when we found out. I feel like we're in a much better spot now. We understand what it is. We have a treatment plan we're working on, and there's less unknowns, which is comforting now. Coming back here kind of brings me back to oh yeah, that's what it was like to have a 2-year-old or something who has hemophilia, or someone just starting out or doesn't really have a great connection to community. Stuff like this is really helpful.
Yeah.
And I don't know, just the importance of it.
A reminder maybe of how far you've come.
Exactly. That's good.
So our youngest, Ruben, the one with hemophilia, where he's 4, I feel like he's just starting to realize that he's not like his brothers. He's asked questions why don't they have to get infusions? And he went through a couple months where he didn't want to wear his medical bracelet. He's none of my friends wear a medical bracelet. I don't want to do this. Why do I have to do this kind of thing? And we actually had to give him an infusion this morning, just his Prophy, his regular infusions. And we ran into this little boy named Calvin who has hemophilia B as well. He's here. He's 10 years old, so he's a little bit older. He's actually friends with my oldest son, Harvey. But they're both on the same medication, and he needed to do an infusion this morning too. So he invited us. He's like, hey, do you want to do an infusion with us? And so Ruben and Calvin went over there, and Calvin sat next to him, and he walked him through all the steps, and Ruben was so excited to have somebody else there with him. And usually Ruben won't let us touch him. We must see he's numbed it all the way. But he didn't want the numbing thing. He was like, Calvin doesn't do that. I don't want that either. And so but Calvin literally held his hand while I pushed it in, and he didn't move. He held still, and it was
way different than how it normally is.
It was totally a switch.
It's okay, I'm crying too.
I know. You're not the only one. There's more people here just like you, and you're just so excited. Afterwards they walked over and they picked up prizes together, and Calvin helped him get breakfast, and there was just this connection there, and it was so made the whole trip worth it. Everything, just for that one moment, it was totally worth it.
One of the most beautiful things about the Coalition Symposium is that it gives space for all the feelings. One minute you're tearing up in the teen lounge, the next you're laughing over lunch with someone who just gets it. When you come to the symposium, you bring all the hats you wear in life. Parent, patient, partner, caregiver, you name it. And while you're juggling all that, it's easy to forget you're an individual too. That's why the Coalition offers dedicated breakout spaces like the men's and women's sessions. It's a chance to connect with people who share not only your diagnosis experience, but your day-to-day reality, to laugh, vent, and maybe learn something new from someone who's been where you are. And that's where I ran into Mike and Ray from Toledo, Ohio.
So my wife is a carrier, and I have two sons. My youngest has hemophilia. He's mild.
My wife is a carrier. His wife and my wife are sisters. And then both my boys have mild hemophilia, and then my daughter is a symptomatic carrier.
Okay, good. So brothers-in-law.
Yes.
All right, fantastic. What I'm trying to capture is just the importance of the Coalition for Hemophilia B, and I mean this symposium specifically.
I'm just absolutely blown away by the connectedness in the community, how much you learn. There's a lot around like advocacy. So there was a really interesting man last year who gave a talk around how this is your patient bill of rights, and this is what you need to make sure you go in and advocate for, because sometimes the doctors will be wrong, especially if it's not your normal doctors, if you're traveling. Definitely on our agenda to come back every year and make sure we absorb as much as possible and that we're doing everything we're supposed to be good caretakers for our patients.
What's it like to be a dad to kids with hemophilia B? That's why Mike and Ryan are here. They didn't know. But now they are caring for children who do have it. So they stepped up to the plate to get involved and connected to other dads in the community to learn.
Most of their lives without actually knowing that they had hemophilia. It was a car accident that led us to finding it out. But coming to a place like this and meeting a whole, everybody that we have and having all the resources, it kind of helps acclimate you to something that sounds really scary. But when you have the information and the resources, it is reduced.
Yeah. And I think what I'm learning as someone who is very new to this is just this idea of how far the science and the medicine and the technology has come. Stigma of even having it is slowly eroding, but I feel like it takes work.
Yeah, I think that's a really great point. A lot of the talks we have seems increasingly you hear about kids don't have any problem talking to their friends about it, and it's just a very natural, normal thing. And I think this brings awareness. This makes everyone more connected and make sure that it's not something in the shadows.
And as I walked around the men's session, making small talk and enjoying a drink, there was a sense of relief among everybody there. These moments to come together as the men of hemophilia only comes around a couple times a year. So there's hugging and laughing and catching up. It reminded me of a friendship. And it was on the other side of the resort where the women gathered to tell their stories and reflect on their emotions of what it means to be a mother navigating hemophilia B, but also to pump one another up. And it was during this session that I witnessed a brand new mom gather up the courage to stand up and tell her story in front of hundreds of now new family, to thank the women of hemophilia B for being there for her at the hardest moment in her life.
My name's Tiffany. Yes, so I have a 3.5-year-old son named Jack who was diagnosed with severe hemophilia B when he was 2 days old. He had a circumcision that didn't stop bleeding, so obviously when we took him in to get looked at after a series of blood work, he was diagnosed. He was a spontaneous genetic mutation, so he is the first one in our family line with hemophilia B.
Since that time, you've found the Coalition for Hemophilia B. Can you just tell us about that experience?
I know when we got diagnosed, kind of how I handle any kind of stressor is to dive in to information overload. So I read everything I could about hemophilia, did every Google search, found every Facebook page. So I must have found it in the blur. But since finding the community, just been really, really great in terms of just the programs and support. I really appreciate how inclusive the community is in the planning here. So our children are in the youth camp right now and how they have programs for them while we're here so we can actually enjoy the content and absorb it. But then throughout the year, between the women's retreat and the men's, different things for the children, it's been really great.
We've talked a lot in this episode about connection, community, and education. But there's one thread that ties it all together: advocacy. And while you might think of advocacy as standing on a stage or meeting with lawmakers, it can take so many forms. It can look like sharing your story for the first time, or even running a booth in the middle of a bustling hallway at the symposium. Now, I didn't get a chance to interview these next two voices during the event, but we caught up shortly after. and they had powerful things to say about the many ways advocacy can spark change, from visibility to education to the quiet, life-changing moments of one-on-one connection. For the first time ever, the Coalition for Hemophilia B launched a dedicated booth focused on women with bleeding disorders. The booth, titled Women Bleed Too, was created to offer a space for women to share their stories, ask questions, and feel seen in a community where their symptoms, like heavy menstrual bleeding, have often been misunderstood or dismissed. The booth was staffed entirely by women living with bleeding disorders themselves, including Jennifer DeGlopper, who's part of the Coalition team and lives with Hemophilia B.
Women have had a really tough road with the diagnosis of hemophilia and in the hemophilia space. It's been only the last few years that women are starting to be recognized as actually having hemophilia and having bleeding symptoms and having bleeding problems and then being able to get treatment. Because this is inherited, a lot of times within a family, there will be heavy menstrual bleeding, and it's just typical. It's normal for them, or nosebleeds, or some of the easy bruising, some of the other symptoms. And the women haven't realized until recently that that's not normal. It was amazingly important just to spread the word and to have this conversation with women who maybe have been blown off or have been kind of discounting their own bleeding symptoms when they actually do have a problem that needs to be recognized and treated.
And when you bring voices together, the ones that leave a lasting impact are often from the least likely places.
What was amazing is that the men were also engaging, and the men wanted to talk about it too, because a lot of them have mothers, sisters, daughters that are experiencing the same thing. They're having bleeding symptoms that are not going recognized. Just that men were willing to talk about heavy periods, bruises and nosebleeds in everyday life for a lot of these people. To have these conversations not only with the women in the community, but with the men too. I know we made a difference for several women in the community that are now going to go back to their doctors and have the tough conversation and be recognized and treated.
Jennifer's story is a reminder that advocacy often starts with one simple idea. What if we made space for this conversation? And it doesn't just impact those at the booth. It ripples outward into clinics, households, and next year's symposium. And then there's Bobby. If you've ever met Bobby, you know he brings equal parts wisdom, warmth, and wit to every room he walks into. Bobby helped lead the Coalition's advocacy booth this year, and what started as a few whiteboards and markers turned into something much more. A space for redefining what advocacy really means.
Many of the people who came to the booth gave either a dictionary definition of advocacy or the definition based upon their income source. What's traditionally has been seen as advocacy in front of a camera with the coat and tie on, and that it's very non-personal to a certain degree and just focused on an end result and not the process. However, at the booth, it was a range of kids, adults, grandparents, all of that. I was talking to a mom. We're at the little whiteboard having, conversations and whatnot. And her first question was, how can I get involved or more active? In that moment, shifted it to where, because there was an expressed need or want. It's like, I've come to the point to understand when folks express something, give them the tools they need in that moment and see how far they go with it so that it doesn't become codependent. And so she took it, ran with it. So fast forward later on, it was either that day or the next day, out on the patio talking with a few of the folks. And here she comes. Her little son is walking with her. She comes on out there. I walk from the other side of the patio. I stick out to my little pinky. I'm also a grandfather. Put the little pinky out and he holds on to it. I go sit on the fountain. Okay. He sits on the ground, crosses his legs. I said, well, I move my cell phone down and sit on there with him. His mother's right there. I said, Mother, we got this. And had a conversation with him. I said, I also have hemophilia. I said, come on, I'm going to show you a couple of the guys. Walked over to the other side. There was one of the guys who's in his mid-30s. I said, here, stand right there next to him. You're going to grow up and you're going to just be as tall as him in his age. One of the older guys who's in the 60s said, now stand right there next to him. Did the same thing. And I said, see, you have something here. These are the guys you will grow up to be and so much more. The unique thing of that patio experience, these were all black men living effectively with hemophilia B at all stages of life, who represented where our community was and is and going to. It flows in a way that could not be scripted or written or any kind of way. I hope they are carrying with them is the impact of their story that leads to their stories, that leads to education, not just for those in their immediate family, but in their immediate communities. Just someone taking the time to stop and have a conversation.
And with that, let me take a moment to celebrate you, the members of the Coalition for Hemophilia B, and what 35 years has meant to so many families and individuals. The power to transform lives lives within all of us. You only need to find the courage to speak up for someone in need, because when you do, you are a much-needed voice for this community, and it needs you now more than ever. But don't take my word for it. I'll let the CEO of the Coalition for Hemophilia B, Kim Phelan, have the last word.
What emotions are you feeling as we celebrate 35 years here in Orlando?
I get teary-eyed, my heart is full, and I'm just so proud of the community that we created, the platform, but the people that all came together, not just treat hemophilia, but also to treat the mind, body, and spirit. And the connections of the people are so powerful and healing. So to know that they have each other, that it's like a second family and they're not alone. So I feel so much love.
A lot of the message this morning was give as much as you take, or however you want to phrase that. So what's your message to families out there who maybe are apprehensive about advocacy?
You know, I think when you first hear the word advocacy, it's intimidating.
It is.
Because
conflict.
What does that mean? But they need to understand that advocacy comes in many, many ways. It comes in helping others, being a voice for those who are not speaking well to their doctors. It's writing to Congress. Advocacy is in so many shapes and forms. You're advocating for your child, you're advocating for your family, you're advocating for yourself. So we have to empower people to know that advocacy is not a scary word, right? And that it's really simple, that everyone can do it in many ways. Yeah, as we celebrate 35, fortunately, I do have a lot of hope, but my concern is that we are facing challenges that I saw 35 years ago, but in a different way. And I really need the community to really step up more than they have ever stepped up before. And so we're bringing in the strongest advocates that I know, the real fighters who fought 35 years ago, to make this community strong. 35 is going to be bumpy. People are going to be more empowered, and they're going to be stronger than ever because we're going to equip them with that ammunition. And we're going to make this community really tight and strong.
Thank you for listening to Boundless B, the Hemophilia B podcast, the podcast standing with you from a family like yours, presented by the Coalition for Hemophilia B and in partnership with Balancing Life's Issues. Thank you to all the volunteers and staff that helped bring the symposium to life, and thank you to our many families and individuals for their participation in today's episode. And on a personal note, big thank you to Executive Director Erica Garber and Director of Communications Jennifer DeGlopper for trusting me with the vision of this podcast, and for helping me deal with the technical back end. For more information on how to connect with your community, visit www.hemob.org and click on Get Involved, then Upcoming Events. This has been a production of Balancing Life's Issues, produced by me, Kai. Follow along with other BLI-produced shows at balancinglifesissues.com. Got an idea for the show? Email me, Kai, at balancinglifesissues.com. And be sure to follow and subscribe to this show wherever you listen to podcasts. Anything else to add, Miles?
Yeah.
This episode of Boundless B, the Hemophilia B podcast, presented by the Coalition for Hemophilia B, is made possible in part by the support of CSL. We thank CSL for their continued commitment to the bleeding disorders community.